Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're talking about Y the Last Man, Volume 9, Motherland. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I am your host, Brent, and today we're talking about Y the Last Man, Volume 9, Motherland. This is in Book 5 of the newer trades, or the Compendium 2, whenever that comes out. But before we get into the review, let me ask you to please do one thing. Please subscribe. Helps me out, helps the channel grow, lets you know when I drop new videos, all that good stuff. So, smash that like button. So, Motherland, the penultimate storyline, arc, whatever you want to call it. This is where you get all your answers, folks. This is all the whys, all the reasons, all that stuff is in here in this storyline right here. Is it satisfying? No, not by a long shot. I remember reading this for the first time and kind of feeling the same way, and definitely, I don't know if this is the second or I think it's the third time I've read this whole series. I still kind of feel some way about it, but it's never really like been a great, oh wow moment or anything like that. And I think the reason for that, the lack of that oh wow moment, is because all the threads that Brian K. Vaughan set up in the beginning in the first volume with Dr. Mann having a baby of herself, a clone, the amulet, I think there was a third one going on, all those things never really panned out, and by the time that they said, oh, it's not the amulet, we were off on our journey. And it was like, okay, well, that's fine, that makes sense. The third one, I don't even remember what it was, if there was one. But this clone one didn't really pick up until the last couple of volumes where, we didn't really have a thread of this storyline all the way through the story, right? It was like, we're diverting over here, and then we're diverting over there. And then meanwhile, finally, once we're 2/3 to the end, now we introduce Dr. Mann's mother and her father and all that nonsense. And now this is the final diversion. We're trying to land this plane home. So even though this is the last divert or whatever, this is the real one, but you can't trace the line back from issue 1. I mean, you can, because he put in Dr. Mann having a baby in that first arc there, but it wasn't really like followed up all the way through. And I think that lack of follow through is what hurts this ending of the story. Even though this is the penultimate story arc or whatever, this is the emotional end, not the emotional end, this is the ending to the plot of why the last man is the last man, right? Why all the males went extinct and all that stuff. This is the end of this plot is in here. The emotional ending is in the next volume. So that's what wraps up all of our characters' emotional arcs. This wraps up the plot. So let's talk about it. If you haven't read Y the Last Man, stop now, because we're going to get into all the nitty gritty. So a morphogenetic field. I don't know if this was a real theory at the time, or if it still is, but it certainly sounds like sci-fi bullshit. And I think that is what, made me. I mean, what did you expect? And that's kind of also the same thing. There's numerous times in this volume where Brian K. Vaughan is talking about, Yorick is talking to Dr. Mann's dad, and he says something about, like, what did you expect? Like, this isn't really that satisfying. So it turns out that this morphogenetic field, the idea of it is that there's a field, and I guess there's some story told in here, which I'm not sure if is true or not, but some bonobos learned some skill on one part of a continent in Africa, and meanwhile, after like their whole little group had learned all the same skill, it resonated through the morphogenetic field, some sci-fi bullshit maybe, into some other bonobos on the other side of the continent, learn that same skill all of a sudden. So it's basically like, oh, there's something coded in our DNA that's communicating with other things, and because Dr. Mann cloned herself, or not even Dr. Mann, but because her father cloned her so many times, because he was in a race with his daughter to be the first person to clone someone else and sabotaged her. And it's all these little pieces and parts, but basically because humanity had found a way to reproduce asexually with the first one, which is kind of weird, the morphogenetic field kicked in and activated and killed all the Y chromosomes because it went, well, humanity has found a way to make more of themselves and they can figure it out from here. You don't need any more male chromosomes. And somehow the thing he sent in ampersand to Dr. Mann to sabotage her stuff that ended up actually going to York, which we found out a couple arcs ago or one arc ago or something, actually somehow kept York alive. Instead of, ruining Dr. Mann's clone, it kept him alive, and that's why he's the last man. Yeah, it's as weird as it sounds, and it's not satisfying at all. Also threw in the fact that, Dr. Mann's father is alive and shows up and then tells everybody that, oh, yeah, I cloned a whole bunch of you. I have a whole bunch of daughters that look like my own daughter because I feel like I messed up raising you because I wasn't there, so now I'm going to try again with these clones instead of actually setting things right with my real daughter. It's a whole thing. It's kind of weird. The other thing that struck me weird too is this ninja assassin Toyota. Yeah, her name's as dumb as it sounds too. Named after the car company or something. I don't know which came first, a Japanese name Toyota or the car company. But anyway, she's still being a ninja and trying to kill 355 and and York for no reason. Not York, 355 and Rose. Rose gets herself hurt here. Everything comes out that she's a Australian double agent or whatever, and then there's another battle between 355 and this ninja assassin Toyota, and they both kind of end up almost dead. And yet again, here we are fixing the third gut wound of this last 18 issues or something from Dr. Mann's mom. She stabbed Rose in the gut. Now 355 is stabbed in the exact same place. It's a whole thing. And as we end the denouement of them finding out, Beth's in Paris, York's lost love, so we're going to go there and we're going to split up. Rose and Dr. Mann are going to stay behind to start cloning people. Now that they've got the lab, they figured it out. They're going to start cloning people, try to clone York or isolate whatever kept him alive. And we leave our tale with Beth, real Beth, in Paris looking for York 4 or 5 years later after all the men have died. So yeah, it's kind of a letdown, honestly. To me, the best part of this trade paperback here are the 2 issues that are us catching up with our supermodel trash girl that we met in the first arc, and her getting the contract at Arlington to bury all the men and stuff like that. And she meets a I don't know if this person is trans or if it's a girl just wearing the beard and makeup, but she's wrapping her her top to hide that she's a girl and stuff like that. So I'm not quite sure. But that we revisit the fact that York's mom has died, and then they're just kind of going on their life. So that follow-up was nice. The other thing that was cool is the leaving kind of no thread unturned. We follow up with the theater troupe that we met a couple volumes ago. Now they're in Hollywood making their own little independent movie. And then somehow the independent movie falls apart and they end up writing a comic book which ends up being the mirror of why The Last Man is. And it's, it's called something, or the title is not as good as Why the Last Man. It's called I Am Woman, this comic book. And it's about the last woman on Earth. I feel like they could have come up with a better comic, name for this alternate comic book than I Am Woman. Why the Last Man is smart because why for York, why is there the last man, WHY, and then also Y chromosomes, which is what separates a male from female, having 2 X chromosomes, right? So I think that title's way smarter than I Am Woman. I don't know why they didn't bother to make that land a little bit better. But I do like the fact that we threw in these stories we had visited, we caught up with them, and we revisited them at the end of the tale and stuff. So you're not really left with any lingering questions, even though you weren't really thinking about those characters at all. But when you saw them, you were familiar with them, you're like, oh wow, these were so much fun to read. I want to find out where these characters went after that part. So that's what happens in here. So art-wise, Pia Guerra doing the main storyline, and then Goran Sudzuka doing the last 2 issues with the follow-ups there. Phenomenal job. Just, I love that they have Jose Marzan Jr. ink and everything, and if he's doing everything consistent, or if Goran Sudzuka's style is really that close to Pia Guerra's, Fantastic, phenomenal job. But story-wise, like, man, I don't know where they're gonna end this puppy. I mean, I don't remember loving it, but yeah, we'll talk about the last volume when we get there in the next video. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know down below what you thought of the ending, the reason why The Last Man ended. Let me know down below in the comments. We'll talk about it there. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.